pointing his knife at him and asking, well, what does a traitor and a villain have to say to me? And then Dmitri has to say, and you would basically have to mention, oh, and you know nothing about being branded a traitor? And then he asked him, then he asked him the real reason. Did you really come here to threaten me? Or did you come here to, basically then he asked him, did you come here to threaten me and yell at Nicole? Then SBO kind of puts his guard down a little bit, like, okay, and realizing, no, that's not why I'm here. So basically SBO explains to Nicole that he saw her running away from the concert and came to see if she was okay. And she wonders why, and he has to explain that, she helped him help Charmy, and because the Iron Dominion had used both of them, and that he knows what it's like to lose everyone's trust. And of course she does ask him, well, how did you know that I probably wouldn't have disappeared back into the system like she was about to with Dmitri? And I apologize for the lines in the tape if you're seeing any lines. And then Dmitri says, because he knows you are, but then after Nicole, Dmitri chimes in and says, because he knows that you are no longer a mere program. For a program would not run away and weep or run away in fear. A program would not do that. And that he knew, and that he, SBO, knew where his friend, as Dmitri puts it, his friend, the Mobian, would go. Now, what's interesting about Dmitri saying this line here in this panel is it makes me think that Ian's got something planned down the line of having Nicole possibly actually become 100% real instead of just being holographically real. So it makes you think perhaps there's something down the line that could happen. Now SBO does point out that right or not, this is Dmitri they have here. And how could Nicole not say something? And he asks, does Knuckles know? Now Nicole does mention that only a select few do know Dimitri's there, and that he's preparing himself to face Knuckles. Now Dimitri thanks Nicole for being kind in truth, but the real truth is that he fears facing the. But the fact is he does actually fear facing Knuckles very much. And because they've been sworn enemies for a long time, he's done horrible things. But then he drops that and says, but enough about me, I worry for you, Nicole. Now at first she's like, and then she goes on to explain, well, that she's at a loss, because she made the city for the people so she could be with them. And that instead, they think she's going to trap them inside. And then she kind of mentions, as we see her, I think, bring up a holographic image of what happened to her thanks to the Iron Dominion. She mentions to Dmitri, you lost control of enormous power before, and and when she mentions this, she asked him, how did you deal with it? And SBO wants to know whether she's talking about when he was Urjak or Grand Master. And then he mentions that in either scenario, he tried to exert his will over reality, force things to go his way rather than the way they're supposed to. And that because of that he will never be with his family again. He's been left astray by his own son, and that his legacy is now a twisted, wretched thing serving the Eggman Empire. But he does mention that there's one thing that Nicole and SBO has that he never had because he was selfish, and it's something that he should have, brought forward instead of ignore, and that is the love and support of friends who will seek them out and help them. And he tells Nicole, look, you must be brave and face the public scorn, and the fact that they cannot hate somebody that hides in the shadows when she stands up to them with a reason. In other words, he's saying if you stand up to them and explain the situation as to why, you were on the Iron Dominion side when in reality you weren't, they'll understand. And then he says, though it is one thing to speak of courage, it is another to possess it, and that he's afraid those two must lead by example. Now Nicole does thank Dimitri, and that he can rest here until he is ready. He mentions he may never be ready, but then he asks SBO if he can arrange a meeting with Knuckles. Now SBO's like, well, I'm in no position to deny someone a second chance. I'll talk to Nux if you, Nicole, will come with me. And that ends, and then she says, of course, I'll help explain everything. And that, of course, ends the second story, the backup story of issue 221, which I have to say is pretty good. I give that an 8 out of 10. Because, like I said, it kind of gives you an idea of what Ian might have in store for a character like Nicole. Like, maybe he wants to do a story where she becomes 100% real, and maybe she integrates what she has right now as a holographic AI into the entire city system, so that if she becomes real, they just rely on the city and not her. I don't know. It looks like that's the direction they're going, but overall it was a good backup story. And there are some people that are questioning that final panel there with SBO holding the hand of Nicole. Like, the question is Ian trying to put SBO and Nicole together? I don't really know. We'll see, but I don't think so. I think, if anything, he's going to have, if he does pair Nicole with somebody, it's going to be someone we least expect. And I don't think it'll be SBO. I could be wrong, though. But overall, 10 out of 10 on the first story, 8 out of 10 on the second, so basically a 28, basically an 18 out of 20 overall for this book. Very well done. And just wait until next issue. I may have to resubscribe to get 222, but overall just a great story, great idea, gives us a great idea of what we're going to be having in store for the next 2 to 3 issues, and we'll just see what happens from there. That's all I'm going to say for now, and I will be back later on with my opinions, maybe by audio, maybe by video, possibly by video, on my opinions of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book and franchise. Till then, peace out, God bless, I'm out of here. Oh, and one other thing before I do go, I do apologize when I did my review on the first story that if I was fading in and out, the manual focus was obviously offline a little bit. I don't know what was going on there. So I apologize for that. So again, until next time, until later on, I am out. But I do apologize on the first review for the in and out deal on the focus and all that. So, peace.